Nearly 15 years that Canada fails to beat China in a competitive match. We'll break it all down for you here on Matchday Live. Jordan Wilson, Amy Walsh joins us as well. And Amy, it looks as though the offense dried up entirely from the first half. A nice bit of play, some things we enjoyed, some things we wanted to see. The question, I suppose, is did you like what you saw in the second half despite the scoreline ending 1-1?
I liked what I saw in terms of new faces, players getting first caps, new talent, and kind of the depth being developed within the group. But I think if I was to be critical, which is maybe slightly unfair with Casey Stoney's first matchup here, is that it lacked anchor points and kind of reference points for the youth to kind of get their feet under them as they came on. I think that we didn't really see an attacking identity emerge. I think you saw too much flux within that roster in terms of the 11 that was on the pitch. And the second half lacked a little bit of cohesion. It just lacked, possession, good spells of possession where the team could really put their stamp on the match. So I think it got away from them a little bit, and it also gave China a chance to impose themselves on the match. And I think lucky to come away from the match from Canada's perspective with the draw, because China got a couple of opportunities late in that game.
Opportunity for Canada, Jordan, towards the end. A ball in from Emma Regan, if I'm remembering correctly. Could have played Adriana Leon maybe a touch earlier. But just to pick up on what Amy's saying there, maybe lacking a bit of cohesion. I'm not saying that was Casey Stoney's plan. Yeah. But when we spoke to her, she said, I expect it to be rusty. I expect it to be clunky. Hand off some debuts, try some new players in new positions. With all that said, first game under the coach, you can't take too much from it. But it's the same question that I gave Amy. What did you like?
I like that they were intentional in the first half, but I think for me, when I'm looking at the full 90 minutes, I have to reflect on the fact that what was working with the first half and the players that were playing was obviously different to the second half, specifically in the heart of the midfield. When you had Grosso and Regan, I thought that chemistry was great to get started, and then you take both midfielders out. And I understand it's the Pinatar Cup, you want to try different players in different positions, but for me, the midfielders that came on, they were just chasing a bit too much, and it was a bit fragmented. And I feel like that was a domino effect to everything else. The attackers weren't getting on the ball the same way. There just wasn't that flow in the second half that you would like to see Canada have. But I get it. You want to get players on the pitch. You're trying to see people in a new environment. If you could do it over, hindsight is 2020, I would suggest just keeping Regan and then maybe having someone to accompany her as well in the midfield. But what's done is done. We're moving on to Saturday's match.
Fair enough. And surely there will be some changes on Saturday against Mexico. And Amy, Emma Regan was all over the place. We'll spend a lot of time talking about her in this game. That midfield in particular, the two central midfielders, not 10s per se, Jordan Wilson, but central midfielders.
Don't shoot the messenger.
It helps lead to the first goal when Julia Grosso sneaks one in the bottom left corner.
Yeah, I really like that combination with Regan and Grosso. I thought they played off of one another really well, and they were willing runners off the quality service of a Gabby Carl, and that interchanging that movement with that right channel. Notably, Janine Sones. It still does not roll off the tongue, I have to say. But yeah, I think when, to Jordan's point, like it has to be an awfully big pocket to fit two number 10s. We didn't see that today. We might see that on Saturday. But I think you did see a midfield impose themselves, and you saw them be the catalyst for what was produced in the way of offense in the channels. Different looks on both sides, but you saw Canada be dominant down the middle of the park. And I think Vanessa Gilles is a name we haven't mentioned yet. She was the glue. She was the leader. She was the captain on the day, and then she was the reference point. So while the game was lacking reference points for this in the second half, in order for them to build on what they established in that first half, I think moving on to Saturday's contest, I think that's what Stoney has to do, is you bring back familiar faces right down the center, right in the heart of that midfield, and then you build around that. And that's where you make your changes, and then you can move on from there within the Pinatar Cup, but also as you look forward to 2025 and what it has in store for this team.
Jordan, anything to tag on there?
I mean, I think there are players that played well for their first match and being back that you can build off to Amy's point. But then I think about the players that didn't get on and were untouched. And are they going to be starting that match? Casey Stoney said she's going to interchange a lot. Yeah. So it's one of those things to balance out, like who partners well. Chemistry is such a big thing in football. Like if you're playing a front two, who are the two that complement each other the best? But you see today, the players that played got a fair shake. It wasn't like anyone just got 15 minutes. they got a good enough time to really show what they're made of. So we'll see what the next crop is for Saturday and what Casey Stoney feels like the game plan is against Mexico.
Well, that first half, 60% possession for Canada over China. China grows into the game, certainly when the changes come in, and ultimately we're going to walk away here with a stalemate 1-1.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, it could have been 2-1 either way. We'll revisit it. I think there's a pen on Leon for sure. But China, they clawed their way. They found moments for me where Canada were just a bit dormant. And here, look, if you're thinking about a 6-knee to step in that position, that's the one. Of course, Zadorsky, you maybe want a better clearance, but everyone is high, and you forget that poundy spot, which is so crucial for a defensive midfielder to be in. And we're just caught sleeping a little bit, and this one's in the back of the net.
Well, and Amy is. Well, go ahead.
Sorry, Jenkins. I didn't realize we were going to you again. That's my fault there. Sorry about that. But you see the dual substitution where I think it was Jordan's point where Regan comes out of there, so does Grosso. Regan slides back to a fullback position. But you vacate that midfield, what you'd established, and you fill it with two players in Chang and Wickenheiser who aren't quite seasoned. They're looking to get their feet underneath them. And that's the giveaway that leads to the space and leads to kind of the flurry before kind of the open shot from the penalty spot. You can't give that away. So if you have somebody in there with a little bit more experience, perhaps you're not giving that ball away there and it's not leading to that opportunity for the Chinese. But credit to them for burying the opportunity that was handed to them. But I think Canada, if you have a player in there with a little bit more awareness about them, it doesn't lead to that type of massive grade A opportunity for China.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go there with you, Amy. It's just you hand a first cap to an important position. Carly Wickenheiser comes in, and these youth international players and the players that come through to the senior team, well, they learn about defensive coverage and how much tighter you need to be, how much faster your decisions need to be, and perhaps just not quite at 100% match speed, understandably so, on her full debut. It could have been 2-1 China, but it also could have been 2-1 Canada. Jordan Wilson, as Canada has an opportunity buzzing around that final third. Contact in the box. Down goes Adriana Leon and Jordan Wilson. Well, there we are. No penalty. Game changed. You're pointing to the spot. It's our Volkswagen moment of the match. You obviously said penalty. Tell us why, Jordan.
Yeah, the cutback went to the left, went back to the right. Look, the Chinese defender here does not get the ball at all. Adriana Leon is in a position to go and shoot on target and gets clipped. This is a stone cold penalty for me. I pointed to the spot. I screamed in the studio. That is one for me that should be a pen at the spot. And maybe that's 2-1 Canada leaving this match.
Amy's nodding her head and agrees. Not much to disagree with there.
Point.
Right to the ankle, got to be a penalty.
Got a point. That's the one.
Yeah, I don't know how much more obvious you can get in order to try to generate, to try to win the referee, to convince the referee to point to the spot there. To me, that's a clear-cut, nailed-on penalty any single day of the week. So I think Canada's a little bit hard done by there, but I think you look at the scope of that second half, they didn't really do enough for me to merit the victory. So I think at the end of the day, given the opportunities that China got, I think a draw is about fair on the day.
And it easily could have slipped through Canada's collective fingers because there was a bit of a chaotic sequence towards the end of the match. Sabrina D'Angelo comes in to start, and with a sea of bodies in front of her, Jordan Wilson, we see the all-state save of the match where she truly had to work for this one, and I imagine the heart rate was probably elevated a little bit.
Yeah, it was a great near-post corner for China, but here, just bodies everywhere. And the fact that a keeper, this is like their worst nightmare, right? The ball's coming at you and it ricochets, it's deflected. But D'Angelo does enough to get her body over that, and you can see just a sigh of relief on her face, knowing that it's still 1-1 in this game.
All right, one more award, Amy Welsh, the Gatorade Performance of the Match. We've sung her praises. Let's keep talking about her. Emma Regan. She partners in central midfield, a player still in single-digit caps. And these are the types of friendlies, aren't they, Amy, that are designed for a player who's had a few tastes of the level, and now the coach comes in and says, I want to see what you can do from minute one. And Emma Regan stood up to the test today.
She really did. She was available. She was eager to get on the ball. I think she created a lot in connecting, like being that important piece, that pillar of the team that they so desperately needed. So whether it was chasing down the ball, applying the crunching timely tackle when required, or being that outlet for her team, or playing the ball forward and springing the likes of Mimi Alidour and Ashley Lawrence, or a willing runner and Julia Grosso going the other way on that right flank. She was all over the place today, and you even saw her fill in. We know that she can play some fullback, so she's got that versatility. So very impressed with Emma Regan, and looking forward to seeing how she elevates her game when she's is up against better opponents. Not to look down my nose at China, but I think Canada can hold their own against the Tier 1 teams in world football, and I think Emma Regan has really carved out a great place for herself.
Amy, it needs to be said, Jenko as well, there are soccer players and there are footballers. Emma Regan is a footballer. Sees the game, knows when to play 1 or 2 touch. Doing a shift at right back today as well. I thought you could just see how her football brain is, making the right decisions, being in the right spot at the right time. And playing in the midfield, for me, I always sum it up to presence. Do you want the ball? Do you want to win back the ball? Are you able to be patient, saying, hey, I'm not going to have it right now because there's too much pressure on me? It's finding those moments and those balances that she does so well. So I think she's a gem of a player, and I think she'll be a focal point for Casey Stoney moving forward.
Well, the thing you just mentioned, it's winning the ball back. You see the glass clip in the highlights for her. She, not a terrible turnover, but coughs the ball up, but she's around and making a really nice sliding tackle right after. It's just what's next? What's the next challenge for me? And constantly trying to stay on top of the game, regardless of whether she is in central midfield or more as the fullback. These are your full-time stats. The possession ends up nearly 50-50 by full-time. Canada caught offside 8 times, so maybe a little rust to start the season. And how about that? Outshot Canada 2-1 of those on target from 6 attempted. It's a 1-1 draw at full time. When we come back, we'll continue to look ahead to what's next for Casey Stoney and the national team. We will see Mexico, some CONCACAF action at the Pinatar Cup on Saturday. We will take a peek and give some thoughts on that matchup when we return to Matchday Live.
Dallas Canadian Championship carrying on. Pass it in the box. Can you believe a second loss for a brace? Square pass for Josh Hurd has found the opening goal. 62nd minute breaks the deadlock. Cordova sends a clean ball, and Osvaldo has opened the scoring. Sergio and Andre Rampazan, it's a collector's item. And the Wanderers lead by 2 goals to 1. The match's opening goal, Diogo Resurrecel.
Save up to 33% on select Walmart brand products. She nods in approval and places the tuna in her cart. This lady loves her tuna. She questions the ominous voice above her. Oh.
A goal apiece and a point apiece for Canada and China as they begin the Pinatar Cup on Saturday. It's match number 2. It gets underway at 11 p.m. Mountain Time, 2:30 p.m. in Newfoundland and Labrador. They play Mexico. Tuesday they'll wrap up the tournament, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific against Chinese Taipei. For one final time, we say welcome back to Match Day Live with Wilson and Walsh. Let's talk about Saturday, Amy. Mexico's in town. If my memory serves, because I think I was there, last time Canada played Mexico was BMO Field, and it's a word of the day apparently around these parts, a feisty game always against their CONCACAF opponents, who are not the Mexico that they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They keep raising that bar, and they give Canada some good tests.
Yeah, and remember last year at the Women's Gold Cup, I believe that they upset the U.S. They beat them,
That's right.
I think, for the first time in almost 30 years, 2-0 on U.S. soil. So, yeah, this is a Mexico side that's coming into their own. But for this matchup, you don't overlook that opponent, that perhaps feisty matchup with a CONCACAF compatriot. But as you test the goalkeeper more, can we get more fluency in the attack, reveal that attacking identity, and just create a little bit more? I thought today was a little bit disconnected, especially in the second half. Can you build on what was established in the first half? No matter who the personnel is out there, because Steve Stoney has mentioned there will be, the squad will be heavily rotated. So it's just a matter of testing more and then unlocking that final third, discovering those movement patterns, finding out who's going to be the catalyst for this attack in the Canadian squad.
Jingo, I've always thought that this Canadian women's national team plays to their opponent. So if they're playing a team that maybe isn't as tactically sound, they play a bit slower, they're a bit more sluggish. Not to say that they're playing poor, but they play the opposition. When you're playing the Americans, when you're playing France, you're playing teams that can go and hurt you. They play quicker. They play sharper. So I think this is coming at a great time now that you're playing the Mexicans, because you had China under your belt kind of as a test, a warm-up, and then you have 2 days to lick your wounds and be ready for a tough match against Mexico on Saturday. We just talked about Emma Regan, a player that I think is exceptional, but I want to see her against competition that will burn her if she takes the wrong touch or she gets out of position. That's what Canada and this team need to do, is play teams that could hurt them. I think Mexico is one of those teams.
When we talk about balance and changes of chemistry and partners, we got something going here. Walsh, is it true you're going to be standing there on Saturday, fingers crossed?
That's the rumor. I'm gonna have to up my style game, because what I had planned, you guys. I mean, you guys are putting me to shame right now with your fits.
He came with a pinky. He said it was the vibe.
You were waiting for that. Let's get out of here. We'll see you on Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, but not before CONCACAF Champions Cup tomorrow night. Our thanks to Amy Welsh. My thanks to Jordan Wilson, Mike and Kevin, the camera operators today in our entire control room. Thanks for joining us on Match Day Live. It was great to see the women's national team, Jordan, back in action, wasn't it?
It was. What a day. Great first start. Excited for more.
All right, excited for it on Saturday. Thanks for joining us today, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Match Day Live. For all of us at One Soccer, we will see you on Saturday. More goals on offer as the KC Stoney era resumes for this women's national team. So long.
Absolute beauty from Tristan Borges. What a